got the levels? Are you picking up my levels? Right here, mic check, 1, 2, 3. It's Danielle J. Martin. Don't forget the J. Here we go. And 3, 2, 1.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. You're about to watch the newest episode to Behind the Spotlight podcast. Now, as much as I appreciate you joining in right now, just know it's not by mistake that you're tuned in right now. Here on this day, at this moment, it was meant for you to listen to this episode. Now go ahead and get your notepads, get your notes ready, because this individual is about to drop gems you're going to want to take note of. And of course, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below. Enjoy.
GMA co-anchor Michael Strahan joins us live from New York City with what they are working on. What day is it?
Today is Hump Day. That's right. It is Wednesday, you guys. Good morning, Tyler.
I just want you to know that I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to talk about this. Behind the Spotlight, just so whoever is listening knows that this is a platform and a conversation that I chose to have, well, really ordained by God to have, that it's important to talk to influencers, people who are really in the spotlight, that people see as successful, but they're a true believer of God and they show no shame in talking about him. And so one thing about why I chose you was you have no shame. I mean, every single day you're expressing your faith, and I think that's absolutely beautiful. And I think it's important to not only mentor, this is going to be a conversation to mentor me, but also mentor anyone who's out there, to really kind of show them and let them know that it's okay to express your faith. There's no rules that says you can't do it. However, I also want people to understand kind of the background of what you do and who you are, and kind of, in the media industry, we always have to put on this certain image. And that's kind of why I think it's also important to have this conversation, because sometimes the media industry, specifically the news industry, makes it seem as if we have to, be very robotic or very limited to what we can say and express about ourselves. So kind of before we dive in to the segment, kind of just talk to me about what got you into the news industry. How long have you been in it? And just talk to me a little bit more about that.
Well, this is year 14 for me. That means I graduated college a long time ago. Okay. So I've been in the game a little minute now. But it's good. This is an industry that I really feel I can make a difference and make an impact and have tangible things in front of me, that people see, in terms of disseminating information, in terms of, getting a chance to meet different people and how they, engage with my life and vice versa. So I feel like was a talker. I grew up writing children's books, then was in young authors contest. I was in theater in high school. So TV is kind of a combination of all that, right? Like in a sense, like you're acting, you are portraying, you are obviously having to be on camera. You have to be a good writer, and you really can't have nerves. And so I think I had the makings of that growing up, although that was not my dream growing up. I wanted to work in sports communication. My dream job growing up was to be like the media chick for the Dallas Cowboys or the Dallas Mavericks. Like that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be the chick running the press conferences behind the scenes and, making sure the guys get to their community engagement events and all that. That's what I wanted to do. And so I was a psychology major when I first went to the University of Missouri. I then wanted to be a sports psychologist. Figured out how long I had to be in school to really be successful and get my PhD. So I was like, no, I'm not with that. So I was already enrolled in going to the University of Missouri, which happens to have, I would argue, the top journalism school in the country. I'm a little biased. So, I was asked on a senior trip, like, have you ever thought about broadcast? You seem like you would be good in that. And so I looked into it and switched my major, and here I am. And so it's been challenging yet rewarding. And there was a time years ago that I walked away from it. I thought I wanted to work in nonprofit. And so I quit TV years ago for a few months, and God brought me right back.
It's powerful that you said that God brought you right back. And do you know why he did?
Well, it was interesting. So at the time, I was single. I had just come off of a couple of international missions trips. I wanted to save the world in a different way. I felt like I could do that, in the non-profit sector. And so I remember hearing a sermon at Celebration Church in Jacksonville, Florida, which was my church there. And there was a man named Rob Hoskins who was there preaching, and he was talking about how God was working with his family's business, which was to print spiritual and Christian literature in different languages around the world for children. And so he was referencing one particular trip to Russia, which used to be the USSR and very difficult to get into and have access to, and what was traditionally a very atheist land. And so he was saying how God was just working miracle after miracle there. They were able to get into like orphanages and schools, and people were just being saved left and right with this literature. And so he talked about an incident where they went to what turned out to be the largest mental institution for children in all of Russia. And he said God was still working miracles there. And there was a guy who was on their trip with them doing some of the work, who pulled him over to the side and said, I asked you to come to this particular place because this is my son. And this is the first time I've been able to actually interact with him and see change and the spirit move in his life. And so, his challenge kind of was like, this is what life is about. Moving mountains is what it's about, And in that moment, I felt like the spirit said to me, Erica, if I asked you to, would you give up your dreams? If I asked you to, would you give up TV? And I immediately said yes. And so that was the shift for me back in 2013. I felt like I was called to do something else. But it was interesting because when I moved back to Dallas, where I'm from, to go figure it out and pray and regroup, because my parents were like, just come home and we'll figure it out. I had been off, since I was 18. So of course, like, just come home at this point, we miss you. And so my general manager, I believe it was my general manager of my station in Jacksonville, reached out to me a few months later, was like, hey, we have some managerial changes. You should come back to the station. What will it take for you to come back? And so long story short, I wound up going back and for more money and helping launch a weekend morning show and that they never had before, and anchoring. It was just twofold. God brought what I had always desired back twofold. I just believe he wanted to know if I was willing to die to my desires and my dreams. And once he did that heart check, then I kid you not, my journey has been different ever since. Every single day that I go on television or do mentoring or a special guest appearance or something, it's not about me. And God made it very clear with that little period of my life. And so I would look at this now, even like mission work with what I do.
That's beautiful. That's really powerful. One thing that I admire about you is that you always express your faith on social media, a platform that many people look up to you, and they see who you really are. And one thing about social media that people may not know is that people display parts of them, not all of them. And so, but you express your faith. And so I think I was telling you about this before, how one of my colleagues was telling me, how are you so comfortable talking about your faith on social media? Like, aren't you afraid that people are going to judge you? And so I guess I want to ask you, were you ever afraid to express yourself? Because you do it so easily in daily posting scriptures. If you're dealing with something at work or in life, you kind of just really make it so personal and just say, God, I really pray for these people who are going through a hard time. Like, you're not afraid to express anything about him. So I guess my question is, were you ever afraid to express your faith while being in the position that you are right now?
Never. And, I would say some people would advise against that. Because obviously, when you get into quote the big leagues, or you start working for big corporations and people who monitor your social media, or who technically own your social media, depending on who you work for, there is a fine balance, right? I mean, you don't want to alienate viewers and people by being overt. Now, I've asked God for discernment and wisdom over the years, and I try to never push what I believe onto people. And as a matter of fact, I've taken it upon myself to learn and engage with friends of different faiths and backgrounds, or whoever. I'm not Muslim, but during Ramadan, I wish everybody a happy Ramadan on Twitter. You know what I mean? I wish everybody a happy Rosh Hashanah when it comes, and I'm not Jewish. So I believe that the strength in my faith is being inclusive, but also firm in where I'm at. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I think that's kind of the fine balance and why I'm okay. And then the bigger thing for me, honestly, I've always said, when I get to heaven, God is not going to ask me if I made it to CNN or ABC Network in New York. He's going to ask what I did with my time and talents. And I have to have an answer, point blank, period. And so he's put me in a position and a platform to, showcase him. And for me, that's complete transparency. I mean, I am jacked up. Okay. And y'all see that. I mean, I think I had a post, during my wedding anniversary. And I was like, look, I'm really not even a great wife. And here's why. Okay. I'm non-submissive. I'm stubborn. I want my way right now with no rebuttal or rebuke. So I just, for me, but this is how God has worked on me in that area. So for me, transparency, what you see is what you get. I don't know how to be fake. I don't know how to be flawed. And so I think all of my stations have learned to realize that. And for the most part, trust me to be of good character and not, demonize or alienate people while I'm still my authentic self.
Do you think that viewers ever had a problem with you expressing your faith? Do you think that your faith contradicts with your work?
I feel like, and I've learned this in the Houston market, you're not going to please everybody. Somebody's going to have an issue. I like to use the example. I kid you not. If you follow me on my Facebook fan page, I could say the sky is blue and people are going to say, no, it's not, it's pink.
I remember you saying
So
that.
I've learned, you know what y'all aren't going to do is stress me out and ruin my peace today. So here is my truth. Here is where I'm at. Because what I try to do in terms of, I always try to encourage or bring something that blesses me or that's helped me. Because again, I'm very flawed. I have to preach to myself a lot to make it through situations. And so I often try to share that, on Twitter or whatever else, and say, hey guys, I hope you have an amazing week. Such and such verse, about persevering or whatever. Like, I honestly, the key for me is just sharing what helps me. I'm not, and I think people for the most part recognize that and appreciate that and don't take it as she's trying to, come down my throat and force something. No, I'm not. If you're on my page, this is where I'm at with it. And this is what's helping me. I hope we can learn and grow together. Yes, I'm a journalist. Yes, I'm all these other hats, but I'm also, a woman of God. I'm also a wife. I'm also a mother. I'm also, a diehard Texan. I'm all these things. And so what you see is a multifaceted person. And so our station, and I think a lot more, TV groups are trying to encourage people to give themselves, because think about it, right? At this point now, social media is a benefit for them. If people are attracting viewers or people gravitate to them or like them for some reason, it's just a benefit to their station. So they do encourage us to be tactful and classy and respectful in all things, but then also show ourselves. And so to answer your question, some folks, yes, probably would have an issue. I feel like some people, who are just downright atheists, they're not gonna like it regardless. And at that point, I calmly usually tell people who are just talking crazy, you're more than welcome to unfollow my page. I would hate to lose you, but don't torture yourself. Just move forward. Just move on. Because this is what I'm going to do. As long as I do it in a respectful way, and in a generic way that's not hurting y'all, what's the issue?
Right. And I think that's important, just for us as believers. I was telling you before that I'm getting to that level in my life as well to express God no matter what, no matter who I'm speaking with, regardless of their beliefs or anything. And it doesn't come off as like, I'm trying to get you to believe him, but I also want to know I want you to know who I represent because of who I am, and who I am is God. And regardless of what I'm doing or who I'm with or where I'm at, like, he is my foundation, and that's what I stand on. What scriptures, you're in a very tough industry. People, whoever is listening, know that the news industry is greedy. It is tough. It is not easy, yet we still put on our pretty faces and we get up for the day and we go and do our business, but we have our hard days. And so what exactly do you do? What scriptures do you lean on that get you through those tough days?
So when I was younger, and it's so funny because I've recently gotten messages from high school friends that have told me that scriptures I would leave on the desk every day in each period, they still have. They still have notes of where I've encouraged them. And so what I used to do was just that, like keep notebooks of encouraging scriptures for they have to flip open, when times got tough. So I definitely believe in keeping those. I still have plenty of them over the years, for different seasons of my life, whether it was heartache, whether it was, me in between TV gigs, me trying to transition to something else, and just kind of these big moments. And so I feel like I was trained very early in terms of how to have quiet time, how to study the Bible. When I was in junior high, I first started going to Fellowship of Christian Athletes camps
Mhm.
around the state, and I went every year up through senior year. And so they really taught you tangible and practical things. And then even with my church youth group growing up, Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship in Dallas, like we were all super close and like really have Bible study like before class in high school. Like, so I think I always knew where to turn.
Mhm.
My personal favorites and books of the Bible are Isaiah and Psalms. I
Mhm.
feel like, you know, there's always an encouraging word in those. And King David was just going through it. He just had to call to the Lord all the time through Psalms. And so during tough times, I'm like, well, I got to get my King David on today. You know what I mean? Unless
Yeah,
the Lord answers
definitely.
me, I can't move. I ain't got no breath. I can't make, So those are books I always look to. Galatians 6:9 is one of my favorite verses. Do not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time you'll reap a harvest if you do not give up.
Mhm.
I love to go old school, like Second Chronicles, where it's saying basically, like, I see your tears, don't fret, your work will be
Yes.
rewarded. Like, I always say, it's so funny. I think I said that the other day on a post, like, it's really serious because I went to the Old Testament on y'all. Like, I'm having to really study. Okay. I'm
To
having to
the
go to
Old
the ancient
Testament.
text.
Right.
Right. And so I'm a firm believer, yeah, just encouraging myself. And my
Mhm.
mom, I feel like times where I am straying or not where I'm supposed to be, thank God for people in your life who, like, I remember my mom in college when I was going through just a rough up and down relationship. My mom was like, girl, you need to get in your word. Are you reading your Bible? I see you
Right.
trying to hang out and do, like, are you reading your Bible? So it's very important to have people in your life who are going to get you back on track. And then, like I said, who you can pick up your notebooks of the things that you remember got you through those tough times, because the word is true. 10 years ago, 20 years in the future, through every scenario of life. And so, yeah, I'll pull out those old books, or even just, how folks do, just pull open the Bible and God will speak to you wherever.
Right, right. All right, Erica, we are getting to the neat and greedy. So now we're going to move into behind the scenes of who you really are. Cliche, ironic is that behind the spotlight is revealing who I'm really speaking with and what people are really unaware of. Of course, you can kind of decide what you want to speak on, but we are human. You know what I'm saying? Just because we're on this platform and what people say as successful doesn't mean that it's all together. So, I look at you, I admire you, but of course there's things that I don't know that you go through that is really, really difficult for you. So I guess for many people who are kind of wondering, not just me, but other journalists, other people who see you, viewers, people from all over the world are like, I want to be her. However, to become you, I'm sure you had to go through so much of trials is what we call, and things that, are not pretty. So my next question for you is, what are some challenges and some things that you've gone through that no one knows? It's very, I know, limit it down to maybe like a tough topic. And I just want to make this a very transparent conversation. I think it's necessary. I think the things that we don't want to talk about are the things that we do need to talk about. So what is something that you've gone through that many people would never even thought that you've gone through?
I mean, I've had 1,000 challenges in my life, that's for sure. I mean, one in college that I don't even think my friends at the time knew. I was really determined and motivated to start my major on time, and I failed intermediate algebra at Mizzou. I failed college algebra at Mizzou, and I had to wind up going to a night school, Columbia College in town in Columbia, Missouri, to take like a 8-week course just to try to catch up. And I failed that one too. And
Wow.
so, it really was about to set me back. And I was supposed to be online pledging a sorority that same semester. And I had to make a decision, like either I'm going to do social stuff or I'm going to try to, get back on track. And so I did, and I worked my butt off. And eventually the professor at the community college was like, look, this show, just take a 70. Like you're going to be a journalism major, just take a 70 at this point. But that was really challenging for me because I'm going to be honest. And this is probably, anybody who knows me well, probably says I'm spoiled. And it does sound like I'm spoiled when I say this, but this is the truth. Most things in my life have come easily. Most things. I've never had to really struggle. And I thank God for that. You know what I mean? Like, if my parents struggled behind the scenes, I never saw it.
Right.
Sports came easily, academics came easily, having a bunch of friends came easily, being the social butterfly came easily, being able to write papers came, like I did, everything was just kind of easy. And so that was a first, I think, real challenge that set me back. Honestly, like ever since I had my daughter, I've been struggling. I went through postpartum depression really bad after I had her, and just the game changed. I was just not the same mentally. And I'm still not. Like, I still feel like my post baby body sucks. Like, I'm still like 12 pounds over my pre-baby weight. And being on television, I'm reminded of that all the time. Y'all know how it is when you could fit, your dress last year, and now all of a sudden you can't. And you're like, oh my God, I went from a size 3 to a size 4. Like, what is life? Again, going back to, yes, I was an athlete growing up, but like I never really had to work out. I never really had to watch what I ate. And now mid 30s, yes, the heck I do. Okay. So that is a real challenge for me every day, to get up and somehow broadcast to the 4th largest city in the United States and be confident and be as confident as everybody thinks I am. I'm not. Right. And behind the scenes, I'm like in turmoil and struggling. And it's tough. And even just juggling the past year or two has been hard. This pandemic has created a lot of anxiety for me, of like trying my best to keep my daughter safe and my family safe and not contracted out reporting and, talking to viewers. It's just, there's so many things I didn't realize I would struggle with in this past year, and I have. And I'm having to work through it. For the first time ever, I'm in therapy. And I commend, anybody who has to go talk to a therapist, because, you have to learn things about yourself, and you have to really dissect and open the door to skeletons or cobwebs and things that need to be fleshed out. And, I'm really jacked up in a lot of ways. And there are things that I have to battle behind the scenes to make sure I'm still doing what I need to do in front of the camera. And that's hard. If you're going through it behind the scenes and you've maybe got 3 hours of sleep because of ABCD, and then you're having to all of a sudden be on in front of thousands or 1 million people or however many people, that can be challenging. But, I try to remember the greater purpose and the greater goal, and that it's not about me. And that's honestly the reason why I'm so transparent about a lot of stuff.